Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's in his office. I'm going to be reviewing the Nick Cave cover album, Where the Viaduct Looms by Nell Smith with the Flaming Lips. Before I go much further, I should give a little caveat here. I love Nick Cave and the Flaming Lips. I own 5 or 6 CDs of each of the artists. I've seen them both in concert, but I wouldn't call myself a super fan, and I don't think I would pass the gate, if there's any gate that is being kept by any gatekeepers as far as a real fan goes. I have been thinking a lot about Nick Cave lately because I accidentally clicked on an ad for his online store where he sells little ornaments and tchotchkes and poetry prints. So I clicked on it once, so I guess just for the rest of my life I'm gonna have to wonder, should I buy a Nick Cave Christmas ornament every day for the rest of my life? This is a really interesting idea. It's a very neat and fun and enjoyable listen all the way through. I think even if you don't like Nick Cave's music, it's great, but I imagine if you love Nick Cave's music, this is very edifying. It doesn't just take from the 2 or 3 albums that are best known or most approachable, it takes from his entire catalog. And what it really is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds without Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. In place of Nick Cave, we have Nell Smith. I mean, talk about unknown. She's a 14-year-old Canadian, and not even a Canadian, like a Canadian, She's from Alberta, which is like a whole nother level of distance from the cultural center and weight of America, right? And she's great. I guess the Flaming Lips found her at a concert. She was dressed up like a parakeet or something. I read the story somewhere. It doesn't really matter. But she has a very charismatic voice. She has a very good voice. She has a lot of soul in her voice. All the way throughout, she really is able to pull this whole plan off. And of course, it doesn't hurt that she's helped by the Flaming Lips, who not only add their music to her voice, but add their weight to her presence. Right? Because that must be very bizarre, being a 14-year-old kid and having one of the most important bands of the past 30 years support you. Right. But here it is. It's this beautiful, Charith, cute story. It's just popping up here, and it's more than the cute story because the music is so good, because it's great songwriting by Nick Cave and then great interpretations. I was thinking about who does it remind me of, and I think we could think of this as a sort of funhouse mirror version of Nick Cave's cover of Bob Dylan's Death Is Not the End. The original Death Is Not the End is sung in a high, frail voice, and Nick Cave takes it and uses and applies his style, his low swagger, his low either drunk or recently been drunk or singing as though he remembers what it is to be drunk voice, sort of oddly maybe paternalistic at times, intentionally messianic most of the time. Just that low swagger replaces the sweet high frailty of Bob Dylan. What happens in this project? The opposite. That low swagger of Nick Cave is replaced by this high frailty, this beautiful, sweet, clear voice of somebody not even old enough to drink. At least not in America. I don't know what the rules are in Canada. I don't think I should have looked that up. I don't edit my videos, so if you want to tell me the drinking rules in Canada, based on my knowledge of Canadian culture, I don't think there are any, but I might be wrong. But let me give you an example of what it sounds like. Let me give you a sample song. One of my favorite Nick Cave songs, The Weeping Song, is also track 2 on this album. I'll include a link to it up there. Go have a listen. Now, I really want to emphasize this one because this is one of the songs I know the best. But I really like how the xylophones of the original are basically replaced by this bloopy synthesizer and the guitar right below it. So it sounds like the synthesizer is an echo of the guitar. There's this great effect that's created, a little bit of reverb on the voice. The voice is delayed, but it's also very clear. It doesn't have quite the epic scope of the original, but it does have a lot of dynamics all the same, much like the original. Like the drum machine being added into the second verse. The high voice is often harmonized with itself, which is quite nice. And the surf guitar of the original is lost. But put a pin in that. Put a pin in the surf surf guitar being lost on the second track of this album. Also, for some reason, this is the first time I ever understood Weeping Song as being a paraphrase of Woody Guthrie's, or at least perhaps Woody Guthrie, it's a traditional song, Worried Man Blues. You know, it takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm worried now, but I won't be worried long. This is somebody who's weeping, but won't be weeping long. There is a sort of multi-generational contextual continuity we could have here. But this really shows the charm of the project and the success of the project and the necessity of the project, because Weeping Song doesn't have to be right? It could be something a little bit lighter. And that's what Nell Smith and the Flaming Lips are able to do. So, let's go through the rest of the album, including the first track, Girl in Amber, which does have a surf guitar. So there's no surf guitar in the second track, and the original does have a surf guitar. And then Girl in Amber, there's a surf guitar, and there is no surf guitar on the original. I must say, I enjoy this version much more than the 2016 song. Maybe that's just my pre-2001 Nick Cave snobbery, but the original is a little bit lugubrious. I don't really like his voice on it, but here there's like this voice. The voice in the production at times even reminds me a little bit of sort of a Twin Peaks feel. But don't take my word for it. I found a quote from Nick Cave talking about this version. This is what he says. I was going to say that Nell Smith inhabits the song, but that's wrong. Rather, she vacates the song in a way that I could never do. I think that's an interesting idea, and as is often the case with Nick Cave, who is a great poet, he's speaking poetically, and it's not really something I can explain as much as something I understand. She has vacated the song. Quite often, I think maybe it's that taking the song and taking away the Nick Cave-ness of a Nick Cave song. And I think he deserves it, you know. Bob Dylan has the Bob Dylan-ness removed from his songs all the time. I mean, what is All on the Watchtower except a Bob Dylan song without anything Bob Dylan in it? It still shows off his great songwriting. It still shows off why he's great. It's just in a different version. Next is the Weeping Song, which I've already discussed. Then Into My Arms, a song I know very well. And I like this because they transposed it basically into a dream pop song. And it's like, well, why not? Into My Arms works as a dream pop song. A very sweet, simple guitar line playing the melody. The guitar here is almost country, very sort of sound. The sound quality is very iffy and sounds kind of messed up. It sounds like that a lot throughout the whole project. I don't know if that's on purpose because it's trying to sound lo-fi, or if it's not on purpose and it really is lo-fi. The Western guitars, which are heard in Weeping Song, are not on the cover. But Into My Arms now has Western style guitars on it that are not in the original. I don't know if this is on purpose. I don't know if they're intentionally taking the guitar style of the original, the previous song, and then putting it on their cover for the next one. I think this is where that pattern stops, but it's quite interesting. Oh Children continues on with some more Western guitar. She sounds a little bit like she's congested, kind of a low-fi second verse, great rhythmic notes. There's just blown out synthetic cowbell, blown out drums. There's tons of everything blown out everywhere. Where the original has a sort of gospel chorus, here it's just kind of a synthesizer sound and these great blown out drums. Kindness of Strangers, off of Murder Ballads. I really like this change. So there is a part, Murder Ballads is such a great album, you know, who doesn't love Murder Ballads? But there is a part to which Nick Cave is sort of an edgelord. I'm sure I pissed off some fans there, but he's kind of an edgelord, the way he talks about, you know, one fat boy's butthole. There's a part of him, the way he talks about murder, and especially murder of women, it's a little, as the kids say, not it, chief. You know, there's a little overtone of it, of sort of glamorizing and minimizing violence against women. So this song, in which the original starts off with the story about someone being tied to a bed and murdered, that's still in the song, but instead of starting off with that as sort of this like edgy, like, oh, check this out, murder story, instead that's the end of the story. So she makes the story chronological. They do a thing on here which, okay, I don't, if you're 14 years old, you're a lot closer to being a child than you are to being an adult. I know that. My daughter's turning 14 next month, okay? actually, in 2 weeks. So the fact that throughout this album, whenever there's a sound mentioned in the song, they make the sound like in real life. It's kind of in the world of audio and movies, that's called Mickey Mousing the sound, like having it go along super directly. So there's some like they hit the they go to a hotel and ring the bell and the bell makes the sound. So there's a lot of Mickey Mousing all the way throughout. No More Shall We Part. Kind of a nice plodding electronic piano. Gets a little bit more. Her voice takes an interesting turn when she talks about the hatchet being buried. This is the only time on the album where I think her voice actually approaches the kind of menacing swagger of Nick Cave, which is quite interesting. More Mickey Mouses with bird sounds. Then came Red Right Hand, which I was very nervous about. I remember seeing the movie Scream for the first time, Wes Craven's Scream. I saw like a preview of it like a couple months before it came out. It was awesome, super fun. I was supposed to see Werner Herzog's Nosferatu at the Harvard Film Archive, but they had a surprise screening of the new Wes Craven movie. I walked out angry, but then they said I could go for free. So I saw Scream. Great time. But I remember when Red Right Hand came on, and I remember feeling this sense of loss. Like Red Right Hand was like one of my songs, you know. Like I knew about this crazy, awesome, super badass song that just made you feel like a lunatic murderer out on the prowl. And I remember hearing it in the song, in the movie Scream, and thinking, well, that's over. And it's over. It's been used 1,000 times. But I like this version because it gives me back a little bit that's been lost with how much that song's been commercialized. You know, this time, it's her voice that's menacing. It's this rural Canadian teenager who manages to be really menacing. And part of the way they do it is the bell, the signature bell that comes in the chorus. It just sounds terrible. It sounds like a keyboard, just tang, just sounds totally off. Another surf guitar comes in to play the outro melody, and just all these voices are everywhere, and everything seems to be broken down. And I actually believe that Red Right Hand is now more effective as Nell Smith and the Flaming Lips than it is as Nick Cave. Because the effect it's trying to get, menace, murder, darkness at the edge of town with blood all over the place, is back in this version. Then we get to the Ship song, another song which I enjoy quite a bit, very sweet and high voice. And then the album ends with We Know Who You Are, which is nice because it's a little bit lower register, more bass work, simple, minimal, leaving a lot for the voice. So there's my review, kind of a quick one. It's kind of a quick album. It's a fun, pithy idea. If you absolutely must hear more from me, check out my spam channel. I did a video on FD Signifier, which is super good. Oh, and the new Black Country New Road song came out. So I am processing that, and we'll be probably doing a video in this very room tomorrow. All right, well, until next time, for Mick Harvey, there's the camera.